America's healthcare advocate, Carrie Hall.
Hello, America. Welcome to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HI Radio Network. My producers today, Mr. Darren Wilhite, behind the microphones from Odyssey, and Dave Thiessen doing all of the video work as you watch us on YouTube today. If you want to join me in studio or listen on the radio, we're happy to have you on board. We have 234 stations across the country. We've added 3 new ones in Texas, so we seem to be growing a lot in Texas these days. You can also follow us on 15 podcast platforms across the country. So we're on everything from SoundCloud to Apple Play. You name it, we're on it. iHeartRadio, Odyssey. We're on all the podcast platforms. You can always find the show America's Healthcare Advocate there. Also on our YouTube channel, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at americashealthcareadvocate.com. That's the website. All of our information is up there. And I do get a lot of emails. I answer each one that I get, so I'm happy to answer. If you have questions or I can help you with something, please reach out. I am happy to do it. All right, joining me in studio, a veteran of radio, Heather Rollins. Welcome back, Heather.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
As the young people say, your daughter's sitting down at the end of the it's been a minute.
It has. Yeah. It has. It's been a minute.
Yeah. How many years have we been doing radio together?
Well, I would say we've known each other for about 20, and maybe 15 of that I've done some radio shows.
That's right. So she used to do all the radio shows for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City. She is now at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Nebraska, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. She is on the board of directors for the Black Achiever Society of Kansas City. And she asked me to do this show, and I agreed to do it because I think what they're doing, their mission and what they're doing with youth in the urban core is really important, and it's something that you really should hear about and how they're doing it. So joining me also is Grant Lewis. He is the president of Black Achiever Society of Kansas City. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
And joining us is Tiana Rollins. Tiana, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad.
And she's going to talk a lot today. Not really, but she is going to talk today about what her experience has been and what this program has meant to her. So let me tell you a little bit about these folks and what they do and how they do it. Founded in 1974, the mission is devoted to making a difference in the community by actively responding to the educational, social, and economic needs of the community by providing role models for minority youth and sharing knowledge gained through academic and corporate experiences. They impact industry with minority youth who will go to college or be in trade schools and prepare them for filling roles in various companies in the greater Kansas City area. So not every kid wants to go to college. And I saw a statistic the other day I was talking to Grant before we went on the air about the fact that 45 or 47%, I think it is, of young men today are not going to college, but they are going to trade schools. So talk a little bit about your mission and how, because basically you're preparing these kids for life after they get out of high school.
Yes.
So they're not adrift trying to figure out what they're going to do. So talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the challenges you face, especially in getting youth involved in these kinds of programs. Grant?
Yeah, so I think about being Black Achievers, we think about the opportunities that a lot of us faced or things we went through as we grew up. We were thinking about all the things we didn't have, and as we got through on the corporate ladder, we were able to create some great experiences for ourselves, but also give back to our community. And so we got recognized as achievers. It was a passion that we already had to be able to go back and support our community and make sure the kids could see themselves in these type of roles, wherever it may be, an engineer or a nurse or wherever it may be. And so going back into the community to make sure these kids see themselves and opportunities to give back to them, give them the skills that they need, let them know that we did it. We came out of some of the same environments they are coming out of, and they can achieve it as well. And so it's been a passion of us to make sure that we show our faces. We go out to the school, we have conversations, we try to provide scholarship, we try to provide opportunity and resources to help close the gap for some of these students whose parents may have not gone to college, whose parents may be achieving the way they feel like they want to, but kids, there's something, see a way out of the hood and some of the environments they're in. And so we try to be that resource for them to hey, you can do this. There's things you can do, whether it be college or trade. There's opportunities out here to cut that circle off of poverty, right? And so we're trying to be that example for them. And through this organization that we're in, I believe that there's a lot of people who care and who have achieved in Kansas City or beyond and want to give back and make sure other kids can have the same opportunity.
That's a pretty good definition, and you said a couple of things that I think are interesting. Number one, making them aware of the fact that there are alternatives, that you are not stuck, that you're not behind the eight ball, and you can't do this, and everybody's telling you what you can't do.
Right.
What you're telling them is what they can do.
Correct.
And you're showing them the face of people like Heather, like yourself, who have actually done that. Okay, and been successful at it and have climbed the corporate ladder and are leading successful lives. So they're getting an example of somebody who reflects who they are.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
right?
Yes, you're right. 100% right. 100% right. And think about that. You think even that myself, for example, I didn't go the college route. I did the trade school route, and so we think about that, and even where I've been able to climb in my background, coming from Wyandotte County in KCK, that I can show them there's different routes of doing these things, and you can achieve and do some great things in your community. But it's that switch that needs to be turned on that sometimes we don't see, the kids don't see, until someone really can get down to them, to their level, helps them understand what that switch needs to come on. And that switch comes on, I think you see kids light up and go after it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So just the fact that you said the switch goes on.
Yes, sir. So
once they see there's an opportunity, then a lot of these kids are saying, I don't want that life, I want this life.
Oh, yeah. I think when you think about that, this is for our organization we do work with every first Friday. These kids are kids who they bring into our organization to be able to give them something to do other than do stuff on the streets, right? They give them some internships they do through the year, and they try to give them to audio technology, video recording, stuff like this. They do podcasts and things of that nature to keep them busy. And so I'll go in there every month, and some of our team goes there every month to encourage those young people, let them know, hey, this is what you're doing, but let's take the next step. How can we be more professional? How can we learn how to talk in a group setting? How can we lead meetings? How can we meet with the customer? Those type of things that they don't see normally, and we try to give them the understanding at 14, 15. Some of these kids are in middle school, so we try to give them opportunity to see it earlier, and when they catch it and they understand it from someone that's been through it and understands it and understands them, I think the switch comes on.
That's interesting. And you said middle school.
Yes.
So you're getting to them even in middle school. You're not waiting until they're in high school. You're getting to them in middle school. So you're planting that seed early so they can go, I could do that.
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm going to do that, I need to do these courses in high school.
Yes.
It's very interesting. In here, there's a significant mentioning of mechanical engineering, IT. These kids aren't getting sociology classes that they're not going to be able to get a job to, or art appreciation classes. They're learning things where they're going to be able to go out and have skills.
Yes.
Either to go into college and pursue those degrees and then move into that field, or go to a vocational school like you did, and then come out of that vocational school and have a livelihood that provides them an opportunity to excel.
Yes, 100% correct. That's what we want to help them push.
That's really interesting, and this is not what you typically hear, which is another reason why when Heather asked me to do this, I thought, you know what, this would be a great show, because we don't hear this. We don't hear it in the media. We don't hear it. It's not being talked about, and it should be, because you're doing something that's very positive, okay, and giving an opportunity to youth that typically may not have those opportunities, okay, and you're providing a way out for them that they either don't see or have never seen. Maybe their parents haven't seen it.
Correct.
So it's a different kind of deal for them. So we come back from the break. We're going to continue this conversation. I'm going to ask Heather to talk a little about her involvement, and I'm also going to ask her, she didn't know I was going to do this, I'm going to ask her to tell her own story about how she climbed that corporate ladder and did a very good job of it. Stay tuned. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HIA Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. If you want to learn more about these folks, go to blackachieverskc.org. blackachieverskc.org. That's their website. A ton of stuff up there. You'll be able to learn a lot about them. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
The Golden Rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. I'm Steve Keeker, and this is one of the founding principles of my firm, Senior Care Consulting. Since 2002, our value statement has included honor our mother and father, respect our elders, care for those in need, and treat your family as our own. We've been honored to help hundreds of families make one of the most difficult decisions they could ever make, serving them in their greatest time of need. If you're looking for someone who can provide you experienced and objective guidance when searching for a senior care community, reach out today and discover the services of Senior Care Consulting at 913-945-2800. 913-945-2800. Know your options and choose with care at seniorcareconsulting.com.
Welcome back to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. My producer in studio today, Mr. Darren Wilhite, Mr. Dave Thiessen. In studio with me, Heather Rollins, Grant Lewis, and Tiana Rollins. They are here talking about Black Achievers Society of Kansas City and how they're giving these young folks a leg up. A hand up, a hand out, not a hand out, a hand up and a leg up, so they can go on and have productive lives and break out of the cycle of poverty and all the other things that go on in the urban core in Kansas City and many other cities around the country where we see this constant problem, and engage these youth and show them there's a way out of this. So with that, so now you're the director of the youth program, Heather.
Yes.
Let's talk about your involvement, and then I want to talk a little bit about you. But first, we'll talk about your involvement with the group.
Yeah, so currently I serve as the treasurer for Black Achievers of Greater Kansas City, and then I also serve as the co-chair for the Youth Leadership Development Workshop. And so what that is really we have a young, smaller group of which we call them the Youth Advisory Council. And my daughter participated in that a couple of years ago before she graduated. But every year, annually, we hold the Youth Leadership Workshop, right? And this gives our youth a chance to actually be leaders. So we have little meetings, for 6 months leading up to this event where we host about 150 students from different area metropolitan high schools. And they come in and listen to these workshops, be engaged in the workshops, and we want to give them information that they might not hear in their high school. And so things about like financial, they might not know, hey, once you get out of high school, how do you pay your rent? How do you manage your money? How do you save your money? So, another course that we've offered is mental health. That plays a huge role with the high school students nowadays because it's like they're trying to compete with what they see on social media. So bringing somebody in to talk to them about mental health and how do you manage that? And how do you still stand up and be a leader, right? And so the Youth Advisory Council, their overall role is to come in, organize the program, and they actually lead the whole youth workshop. So they're presenting each speaker. They're guiding the students on where to go for their sessions. And so it's been a great time. I've done that committee for, I say, probably the last 6 or 7 years. COVID kind of put a monkey wrench in it where we couldn't host it like we wanted to. We used to host up to 200 students. This year, we just held it April 25th this year, and we were able to have 150 students. So we're excited. We're getting back up to our pre-COVID numbers. But, the feedback that we get from the students is like they really enjoy it. We're inviting students from all of the metropolitan area high schools. And again, like I mentioned, they're seeing and hearing things that they don't get in high school. And they really are engaged, and they come back and give us great feedback about what they experience and how they can use that once they either get out of high school or go to trade school, go to college. It's just eye-opening for them, and we'll continue to do that and support them as much as we can, but really encourage them to be leaders, right? And how to kind of step outside of their box.
How much pushback do they get typically in the school? I mean, they're doing something that's a little different than, what a lot of the other kids are doing. Mm-hmm. Theirs is a positive, different approach. How much pushback do those kids get in the schools, and how do they handle that? When you talk about mental, yes. Okay, are they being made fun of? Are they having a difficult time? Are the other kids pushing back? How do they handle that?
It's these are some very strong and resilient students, right? And, one thing I will say is that the schools themselves have been very supportive in wanting them to come and be involved in our workshop. They don't normally have these opportunities to attend the workshop. So the schools are actually very supportive and encouraging them to come and hear something different than what they might be getting out of the schools. I read a statistics that a lot of these children don't know how to read, by the time they get to high school.
No, it's horrible.
Yes. And so when Grant talked about trying to engage them earlier, I think it makes a world of a difference because is troubling once they get into 8th grade, 9th grade.
And they can't read.
Exactly. And so we want to make sure that they know that they have support. If they may not be getting it at home, they can get it from us through our mentorship programs, through that workshop. We want them to be engaged and let them know that they have support.
So if they're having trouble, they're struggling in math or they're not reading or whatever the case may be, you're offering them mentorships, tutorship, people.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if Grant want to talk about it, but he does a lot with our mentorship program. He has done it through Grandview High School and a few other areas. But yes, mentorship. And it's just great for young Black students, young Black boys to see older Black men come in and talk to them and let them know, hey, I'm an example that you can use, and I'm an example how you can definitely be successful.
Grant, how does that play? I mean, there are a lot of influence out there, and those influences are out there on social media and these other places are not positive.
No.
So, and that's not just in the Black community, that's everywhere.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I've got 6 grandchildren. Trust me, it's there every day. How do you push back on that and get them to step away from that and look at this by looking at you?
Right. So I think about it, a couple weeks ago, we were at one of our organizations, Jenna Club in KCK, and I was at 2 middle school and 4 high school students in that area, in that room. And so talking with them, they were talking about goals. We were talking about our goals. What are you trying to do in life? And thinking about sports and playing sports, and football came up. And I was like, great, football, but you can't go to the NFL until you do 3 years of college first. So that means you have to pick a major, right? And his eyes lit up. Right. And so when he
didn't know that.
He didn't realize that. Right. He's like, you got to pick a major. I mean, I'm with your dream, football. I couldn't play it, but you can. If you can, that's your dream. Go right after it. I'm not going to ever cap a dream, but I'll say, but you have to go pick a major, whatever it is. So you have to think about, hey, I have to get a 7 to a college first, and then I have to go into that school and commit to a major and do 3 years at least before I can go to the NFL draft. Right. And so it's letting them know, hey, I'm not having these conversations at home. I'm not having these conversations at school. But someone that comes down and just gets real and dirty with them and says, hey, this is what's really going on. This is what and so I think they see that, and they know we're truthful, we're honest with them, and we don't sugarcoat anything, and just being real we can with them. And I think that's what gets this kid, as we go in there, coming back and forth and say, I understand, I want to keep hearing from them.
We got 1 minute left, but you hit on something I want you to. How many of these kids are coming out of single family homes? Single parent homes where there's only a mother typically, or maybe only a father, depending?
Well, I think a lot of students you work with, you have that. I couldn't put a number on it.
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot of kids. There's a lot
that's prevalent.
Yeah, even when I grew up, I mean, that's what happened. That's what a lot of it was, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they don't have that outside influence in a lot of cases, and the mother may be working 2 jobs to try and support the family. Good. So they're getting it from you, which is a totally different. Sometimes, it's kind of funny. Sometimes when kids hear it from somebody other than the parents.
Oh, of course.
Tanya, I'm looking at Tiana down there. She's just smiling. She's not saying anything. Okay. All right. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HI Radio Network, coast to coast, across the USA. Stay tuned. We've got more. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. Remember, this show is posted on all 15 podcast platforms and on YouTube. If you want to view it that way, you can certainly do that. If you want to share it with somebody, you can do that as well. If you're here in the Kansas City Metro and you would like to get involved with this group, they do some great work. Work that needs to be done. These kids need to understand they've got a chance and a way to break out of, as Grant said, the poverty circle, the urban violence, all of it, okay? And they do that. It's called the Black Achievers of KC.org. That's the website. BlackAchieversKC.org is the website. They've got upcoming events. On June 20th, they've got their annual awards program. On July 18th, they've got their youth scholarship luncheon. If you'd like to get involved or know more about it, go to that website, BlackAchieversKC.org. Grant, a little bit about, before I ask Heather a little bit here, a little bit about who's working with you on this. I know you got Blue Cross there. Talk about some of the corporate people. You've got the Federal Reserve in there.
Yeah, so a lot of times we have sponsorships and support from a lot of organizations over the years, right? And so Federal Reserve has been in place, has held our awards a ceremony for years. Just going back, trying to go back there.
Actually,
this
in
fall.
the Federal Reserve facility?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We've had there for many years, and so they've been a great supporter of Blue Cross Blue Shield has been a supporter. Honeywell has been a supporter since almost its inception. So there's a lot of companies around the KC that's been supporting us in different aspects. And so we're appreciative to all the companies that pour into us, that allow us to not only nominate achievers, but send personnel, support personnel, especially when outreach, we're doing mentoring at Grandview High School or middle school. They send people out there, those type of things. So we have great support, I think, throughout the city.
And it's not just, so you Wyandotte County, Jackson County,
Yep.
you're in various parts. You're not just
No, wherever the need is, where we get the need is, and we're in the partnership, we go there.
That's pretty good. Now I'm going to switch to you a little bit.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about you because you
Yes.
worked for Ron for a long time at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and Ron Rowe and I still work together to this day over at Blue Cross of Nebraska. I know that when you went to work for him, you graduated from college when you worked there, but you did something that he really was impressed with you, and it was one of the reasons why he mentored you up through the system. You did your MBA at Rockhurst College while you were working.
Yes.
Talk about that, Heather.
I had an old manager at the time who was, she reported up to Ron. From my background, we talk about minorities. I grew up with a single parent. I was a teenage mom. My mom didn't have enough. She had a disability herself. So I just knew when I graduated out of college, I am going to be successful. I knew I wanted to be in business, and I'm going to, try to achieve the highest level that I could. So when I was in a sales role at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City years and years ago, I talked to Ron and I'm like, I want to be a manager, and I had my bachelor's at the time. And he said, okay, well, you can do that. And I said, I want to work on my MBA. At the time, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City was offering money for reimbursements if you went back. So I did go to Rockhurst and get my MBA. And so that was like the sign to Ron Rowe at the time that, hey, I'm really serious about this, and I do want to grow in my career and be a leader and be an example to those that I serve. And so he helped me get that. It's one thing that Ron used to tell me all the time, because me being a minority in the insurance world, to be honest, I didn't see a lot of people like myself. And Ron would tell me all the time, Heather, when you wake up in the morning, you put your pants on the same way that they do. And so
that's Ron. Ron can say things are a lot more colorful than that, but you're probably toning that down a little bit.
He said, you put your pants on one leg at a time, just like they do, so you can do it. And so that has always inspired me to continue to push myself and grow and be an example to not only my community, which I have a passion about, but to my children as well. So I just always try to live by that. And that's why I give back to this organization, because I do see these children who can be whatever they want to be, but just giving them the resources and help encourage them that they can actually do it.
Yeah, they're getting a different message.
Yes.
And by the way, she before she left Blue Cross Blue Shield, she was a vice president of the department that did all the Medicare small group and ACA individual health insurance and travel insurance for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City. She's in a similar role now at Blue Cross of Nebraska, reunited again with Ron Rowe. But I think that story is important. So, Tiana, how important it was when you saw your mother going to school at night so she could get that MBA? What did that say to you?
My mom is just a great, plays a great leadership role in my life. Like she said, she grew up in a single household, and so did my dad. So just having those type of people to look up to just is really encouraging and really influencing, and just shows that no matter what you came from, you can dig out of it. You can do better for your generations and just continue to spread that on to the generation. So yeah, she's very influencing, and I really look up to her and my dad as well. They're just great parents, and they just showed me that you can do whatever you can put your mind to, as long as you work hard.
The key word there was work hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not hardly work.
Right.
So, Tiana, talk about your experience in this group, because you're involved in this now, and you've got a scholarship out of it. Actually, talk a little bit about what your experience has been in the group.
Well, I really feel like it's a very beneficial experience to have. During that time when I was in it, it was during COVID, so we didn't actually get to do the workshop. But I feel like it just allows you to develop better leadership skills and be able to open up, because like my mom was saying, a lot of the minorities grew up in like a single household, so they can't really find who they are. They don't know how to open up. And fortunately for me, I was blessed to have two parents that I can look up to. They're able to help me through that stuff, but a lot of students don't have that. So I feel like this organization is really good to just create leadership and show them that you have a voice too. Like you can do whatever you put your mind to. And so, yeah, I just feel like it really helps you find who you are, and being surrounded by other minorities is also another pushing. It's like very encouraging and influencing. So it's just very good for leadership and being able to like apply that to college, not just in class, but like on the basketball court too, because I play basketball. So I'm able to apply those leadership abilities and like communication skills and all the other skills that I've developed from this organization and just put it to put it presently and in the future when I want to become whatever I want to do in the future.
That's well put. Very well put. So Heather, how important it was very interesting, Tiana, just talk about these kids not having somebody to talk to or not being able to talk to somebody about, because single parent home, usually it's a mother, she may be working 2 jobs to try to support those kids. How important is it, and how big a role does that mentorship program that you, Grant, and everybody have set up, how important is that to these kids on an individual basis?
Yeah, it's definitely very important, because even with our youth leadership development workshop, and I mentioned that youth advisory council, we like to pair them up with mentors individually as well. And sometimes, they just need a sounding board or ear just to kind of listen to their frustrations at times, and I always have to be that outside person. Just to share a quick example, one of my students, she's like, hey, she was a little frustrated with her parent, her mom. You just have to remind them, like, hey, you got to give your mom some grace, right? She might be working 2 jobs, and you might not agree with everything that she's doing, but just keep in mind, she's trying to support you. And just give her a little bit of grace, because I know it's tough on her. You may not know everything she's going through, but it's tough on her too. So just being able to just kind of give them that knowledge and just kind of give them a different perspective to kind of help them through what they're going through. And it's been great. We see these students, we start the youth advisory program from being a freshman, and we try to keep them all the way up through once they graduate high school, and give them scholarships. So it's great to see them grow, not only from a leadership perspective, but as a person in general, and being able to work with other students, even if you might have a little conflict, being able to resolve those conflicts and get back to work, right? And so it's been great just kind of see that and see them grow.
So, Grant, it sounds to me like what the group settings that you're doing are obviously very, very important, but tying these kids to a mentor where they can pick up the phone and call somebody and go, I'm having problems at home, or I need some kind of a part-time job because I need to make some money for this or that or something else. It seems to me that plays a critical role in the success of this organization overall. 100%
it does. I think back to one of our first scholarship recipients for the Honeywell Scholarship that came from that environment, and these came from two-parent home, but still didn't have the connections. Came out of KCK, didn't have the connections, and we got the internship for her, but she had life problems. She just had, going to college at MU, she was like, we got our mentor, and that mentor became her like big sister for 4 years, and she rolled up after she graduated from MU with a chemical engineering degree and got hired by chemical engineering degree. Now she's at Burns and Mac, but and so after all that, she wrote up a whole summary of her experience and mentioned the fact that without this mentor, she would have failed. And so those are things we try that we're coined in on, is that we provide a mentor for that resource, for that lifeline. When she was having problems at school, having problems at, dealing with things and just want to break down and throw in the towel, she called this mentor, and the mentor got her through 4 years of that. And so this is what we're trying to do as an organization, to be a support.
That is a great story. Mm-hmm. That's a classic example of what we're talking about here and how it can make it a degree in chemical engineering. Lord have mercy. Mm-hmm. All right. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting here on the HIA Radio Network. If you want to get involved, this is really a great organization. The website, blackachieverskc.org. They've got events coming up. You want to be a mentor? Maybe you're retired, you've got time, whatever the case may be. There's an opportunity. blackachieverskc.org's website. I'm sure they'd be happy to chat with you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. In studio with me, Heather Rollins, Grant Lewis, and Tiana Rollins. Black Achievers of KC.org is the website. It's the Black Achievers Society of Kansas City, and they've got a great story to tell. They're making a big difference out there in the community, and this is the kind of positive thing. You're not seeing a lot of this in the media, which is why one of the reasons why I'm doing this. They are making direct changes in these kids' lives. You heard that last segment, Grant talk about a young lady in the mentorship program who went on to college, got a degree in chemical engineering. She works at Burns McDonald's right now, one of the largest engineering firms in the country, headquartered right here in Kansas City. So they are making a difference. They are showing these kids there's a way out of the urban core, the inner city, where they can have jobs, they can have lives, they can be successful. You know, an example of that is sitting here right here next to me is Heather, and another example of that is Grant. Heather went to college, Grant went to a vocational school, and both have been very successful at what they do. So let's talk a little bit about that. I told you a story off air. I was kind of floored by this. I had the opportunity to go to a NASCAR race last week, in the one that was at Kansas Speedway, and we had some VIP passes that my daughter had gotten for us, and we were hosted by the people that build the engines for Ford. All the Fords that race have one engine. It's built by a company called Roush Yates. Roush does a lot of interesting things to cars. Ron and I are very familiar with Roush Yates. So we're actually in the garages with the cars, and this young lady, but probably not much older than Tiana, she was out of college, 3 years out of college, but he introduces her, and she's got a computer in front of her, and she's running this whole tuning session for this very complicated car that they're going to put out on the track out there doing 160 miles an hour, okay, with this driver in it. And so, you know, like, well, where'd you go to college? She didn't go to college. She went to a trade school and came out of that trade school, went to work for Roush Yates. 3 years later, she's in the program traveling. He calls it the traveling circus as they go around the country. I think they do 68 races or something. And she is the one that's in charge of setting those cars up, those cars. So not every kid goes to college, and these kids that didn't go to college are basically running this whole NASCAR segment. In fact, several of the people there had degrees, and they were in the management positions. But these people actually setting up these cars and doing all the technological work, they were all out of trade schools, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So talk about that opportunity, because as I said earlier in the show, 45% of young men, or 47% now, are moving into trade schools, not going to college.
And so I work for Honeywell, so I'm able to see a lot of workforce that does not have the college background. And make a lot of good money. And so when I think about that, I knew when I came in there's an opportunity for me. And I think when I went to trade school, it wasn't really popular. It wasn't something back in 2000. It wasn't a popular thing about going to trade school. My mom just tore things apart and put them back together again. So you go to school for this. So I did. Got the little degree, went to Honeywell, has been going ever since. But I've thought about it through years, like, what other kids don't want to do college as well, but need to have a way of success, right? And so the trade school thing came along, and kids didn't really know about it. You have things in KCK, the trade schools you have in KCK, in Raytown, and other parts of the region now, that kids can learn skilled trades, right, and get into a job and make good money, create their own job. They can be entrepreneurs. They can do a lot of different things that they can set their own schedule on, all by learning this skilled trade. Took them 18 months, maybe 2 years to do possibly, and they can get out here and make some good money. And so when I think now the dynamics are changing now for opportunities for kids having a degree or not having a degree. So kids are finding opportunities now and running with it and being excited because they can make some good money and not chase the way that the usual way, the cookie cutter way that people say you have to go make money. And so these are kids making a legal path for themselves, exciting path for themselves, making great money at a young age, 18, 19, 20, able to buy themselves a car, clothes, those type of things, all because they went in a direction that's not conventional.
Yeah, that was interesting, because one of the things that the gentleman who was in charge of taking us around, they go in and they literally harvest these kids out of these schools, because they're trained, and they're in these schools for 18 months, and they basically come away with, they don't have big college loans to pay off.
Nope.
It's just amazing how that all works. And they come out of there ready to hit the ground. They're starting out at $100,000 a year, starting at $100,000 a year. And this young lady that was running that whole program, my guess is she's probably making around $200,000 a year, if I had to guess, just because of the fact that she had all these other people working underneath her. And like I said, she didn't look much older than Tiana. Okay. But here she was, running this whole program, and the engines in those cars are like, $90,000 just to get the thing set up. I mean, not even the cost of the engine itself. They're ridiculously expensive. And yet they've developed these programs now where they can do this, and they can do it a lot cheaper. And they've got these young kids coming out of these schools, and it's like, that was a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
Because you hear about this, but I was actually seeing it at a level that you typically don't see it at.
No.
So, all right. Well, thank you all for being here. I think we should do this again. You guys got some events coming up here, so maybe in July we can get back on again and talk about your luncheon, and talk to get folks involved. What you're doing is great, and it's something we need more of, not less of. So I want to thank you for coming up here today. When I do these kind of shows, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm trying to educate and inform. That's exactly what we did here today. There is an opportunity here. If you want to get involved, if you want to help, if you want to just learn what they do, go to their website, blackachieverskc.org, blackachieverskc.org. Thank you all again for doing this today. And now I leave you with this thought from Dr. Martin Luther King. Americans must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will surely perish together as fools. Truer words were never spoken. Thank you for listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. Goodbye, America.